Good evening. I officially will call the meeting to order. It is 7:03, September 22nd, here at the Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Ave, Dayton, Massachusetts. It is for the record, this is a public meeting being video and audio recorded for cable broadcast, and this agenda is subject to revisions and additions up until meeting time. So if we could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just got distracted because I didn't know there were people at the pavilion.
Oh, yeah?
So I was like, who's All right, first thing we're going to do is just going to confirm the next meeting date. So as we know, this meeting kind of fell a little differently with our usual pattern. So if we keep into what our usual pattern would be, that would put us at October 26th. Does that work for everybody? Is there, how are we for meeting spaces?
October 26th at the Primetime Building is good.
Does that work for everybody?
Works for me.
Do we have anything coming up yet?
I have nothing.
All right, that sounds good. In the event that anything is continued from this meeting to there, would that work for you? Okay. All right, fantastic. So we can go right into the the business that we have today. So Owen is here from Stonebridge Homes regarding the release of the bond, and there are two things that we'll be discussing: the modification request to condition 16 of the comprehensive permit, and modification request to condition 58. So whenever you're ready, all yours. Oh yeah, sorry. So we do have to replace one of our voting members who is not here tonight. She had a death in the family, so we do need a new voting member, John. Thank you.
That would
Mr.
be-
Chairman, before you do that, it's my understanding this is her first meeting that she's missing she's only been identified as a voting member for the release of the bond. So if she wants to and is able to make the next meeting, she could sign an affidavit saying that she's read the minutes and continue as a voting member. So if you want to wait and do this at the next meeting, if there is a need, if you end up voting on the release of the bond tonight, then obviously you'd have to replace her, but I'm not sure that you're going to be at that point yet, so.
Okay.
You may want, it's totally your call. You certainly have members here who you could replace her with tonight, and we can take care of that. I just wanted to give you that option.
Okay, so yeah, John, let's wait on that then,
Okay.
just to see how we progress, and if we need to, we'll move that.
And then my suggestion would be that you identify separate voting members for the modification requests anyways, so I don't know if you want to take care of that now, or if you want to, because those are different requests than the release of the bond.
Right. Okay, yeah, John, so if you want to take care of that first.
Certainly. So for the voting members for the request for modification, and this is for both requests, then that would be Dave, Greg, and Elise.
All right, so all set, whenever you're ready.
I'm sorry, one last thing. Are you recusing yourself, Mr. Gale?
Yes, I am.
On everything? On everything, I'm sorry.
On everything Stony Ridge, yes.
Okay.
All right, all set, sorry. Okay, so Owen, whenever you're ready, you're good now, sorry.
Yeah, hi, so we're here for the board to request two modifications to the comprehensive permit. The first being a modification for the fence height. Currently the permit requires a 5-foot chain link fence surrounding the two detention basins. We're requesting a modification down to 4 feet. As part of that modification, the applicant is willing to bear the cost of doing any repairs to the fence as currently needed prior to release of any bond.
Do any of the voting members have any questions?
So, Ian, both of these have been installed already around the catch basin, and they're working at 4 feet tall. And the inside of the catch basins have been maintained around the fences at this point, or is it all overgrown?
No, it's all been cleared down.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Dave, do you have anything? Any questions for him, this one? No. Elise, do you have any questions?
I do not have any questions.
I do have one more.
Sure, go ahead, go.
This is definitely a vinyl clad that's up there now, okay?
Public?
Public, yeah, sure, go ahead, John.
Okay. I don't know if Diane's here or not. As of yet, she's the other trustee who is going to be
She
here.
is.
Do you want to speak, or do you want me to? Okay, I'll speak for now first anyway, which is, we have had conversation with the developer with regard to the modification for the 4-foot fence, and we've agreed to the modification to the 4-foot fence, again, as Owen indicated, for the developer, assuming that the work is completed for all the repairs correctly, and assuming that we receive a report from the building inspector showing that the work was satisfactorily completed to the town's specifications.
Mr. Williams looked at this already. Peter?
I'm not sure. Marguerite, do you know if Peter,
if Mr. Williams has done his report on this property yet since the,
I had an email from Mr. Williams, I think at the last meeting, we had an email from Mr. Williams.
So the answer to part of that is, and Owen can correct me if I'm wrong, is that, and I'm speaking again on behalf of the trustees, is that the way we're doing things or expecting things to be happening is that Jim Aguirre would be providing the fencing approval, providing the document or sign off on the completion of the fence repairs in compliance with the town's expectation. But that with regard to the roads, Peter Williams.
Hold on, point of order.
yeah,
We're talking about the fence at this point in
Okay,
time.
okay.
Also, the comprehensive permit has to be signed off by Mr. Williams, if I'm not mistaken, and Jim Aguirre is the one that would go out and do the thing, but he still needs something from Mr. Williams.
So Mr. Williams has approved certain conditions as being completed, but the fence condition was not on there.
Okay, so the fence is not
So
on
that's
with him.
still open for approval by him.
so it's not that he addressed it one way or another, it's just, it's not, I wasn't, you didn't say anything.
Yeah, we don't have a final letter from Mr. Williams. We have, so far, we're getting, as things are getting done, we're getting confirmation that that's been completed, and then there's still a few open items. So repair work to the fence, as I understand it, is still an open item.
All right, and you guys have,
Hasn't been approved yet by, and he may be waiting, if the agreement is that it would be the building inspector, he may be waiting to hear that from the building inspector, but I just haven't seen that since the last
just
meeting.
want to clear it up, though. Even when Jim signs that form, Mr. Williams has to sign it off, because it's on the comprehensive permit for relief of the order,
I think we hear that.
okay? All right.
Excuse me, Vice Chairman Logan, too. Also, in your packet, I included everything that took place at the last meeting in your
So
packet.
thick, I was like, you said
That's
it
why
was a
yours
small
is so
meeting.
thick, yes.
I was gonna say, I don't see, am I missing something? But he's,
No, so, and I think a bunch of, some of
The answers I need are in there?
some of that is in there, so you'll
Okay.
see some of Mr. Williams' reports in there
Like I
as
say,
well.
if they're gonna do it,
Yeah.
we don't need another snag, I just wanna make sure, even though Jim goes out and signs it, Mr. Williams has to ultimately, for the condition, if I'm not correct, and he's the one who signs off for all the engineering.
yes.
For a release of the bond,
Yes,
which,
okay.
yes, but
That would be
that's,
another
that's
step.
separate from
Yeah.
this modification.
I didn't mean to cut you short, but I wanted to make sure that's stated on that
That's
right
okay.
away.
Diane, Owen, am
What
I
you missed
am I missing anything there?
last meeting, Mr. Logan, was that there's two different,
That much.
I know, they're moving forward in two different ways.
Okay.
And there's also a need to, there's an ability right now to move forward with the planning board for acceptance of the road.
Okay.
That does not require the zoning board's approval.
Okay.
That requires the building inspector's approval, though. And so that is something that still needs to happen on their end, and that's not before you guys. That is something that the planning board will need to have in order to move forward with the request for approval of the roadways as a public way.
Okay,
And then you still have the request for release of the bond before you, and it's very possible that that may still be an open pending matter while they're seeking approval of the roadways being a public way, okay?
All right.
That's what we were discussing at the last meeting. I'm sorry, Mr. Gale, I cut you off.
That's okay. I think we had agreed, with the developer, that the release of the bond would be contingent upon those items being met.
The fence, right? I mean, we have to clear the bond for Peter Williams totally, but the fence in particular, as we said, until the fence is repaired, and that's what we're adding.
So
to
the fence, a
modification.
tree fell on the fence, is that what happened?
Yeah, and general
Yep, okay.
things throughout there's a couple places where it's a little bent over.
So are you proposing that would be a condition of any sort of approval of this modification request?
So as part of the modification, I have it written in that the prior release of the bond, that will be complete.
Yep.
And Marguerite, we have to vote on these two separately, correct?
Yes.
All right, so is there any more questions or discussion regarding just the condition 16 regarding the fence?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask Diana, am I missing anything?
You are not.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on this, I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that if Jim signs it off, Peter does have to sign this off. And then that would be a condition that we can give a relief on, correct? The modification with both signatures, can't just do it with Jim's.
So there's three different things that are before you tonight.
Well, I'm talking about the fence.
So the fence is just a modification request, and
Yeah.
they're proposing a condition that the modification, so it would be a new language that basically would say that the fence would be 4 feet high, 4 feet high,
yeah.
provided that prior to the release of the bond, the applicant will undertake any and all repairs to the fence and bear the cost of the same, and the same shall be approved by the town inspector.
So that's,
That would be your
in the way we
condition.
have 16, that's the new language right there.
That's the okay, so that's what we're
That's
modifying.
exactly
it
what
to.
it will, as soon as approved, that is what it will say now. It's basically the new wording of it. Any other questions, guys, down there? No. No? All right, so is there a motion on the floor to approve the modification request to condition 16 for the comprehensive permit?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Any discussion?
Is it the motion with the condition?
Yes, with the condition, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye, Greg Logan.
Aye, Elise Vincent.
We even got
I
to
don't,
say
I
our full
don't,
name
no,
now that
you
we're
don't, now that
live?
you're not in Zoom, no,
Alright,
you don't have,
we got used to it.
we can
that's
see
all.
who's talking, we can hear the voices pretty clearly, so I think we'll have to figure it out.
We'll get through this one day.
Maybe not. All right, so it's gonna bring us to the, number 2, modification request to condition 58 for the comprehensive permit. So I'll set,
This condition request is to approve the sign that's at the entrance of the subdivision to be allowed to stay. Currently in the permit, it says that any marketing signs have to be removed. This isn't as much of a marketing sign as it is, seems to be a good fit for part of the subdivision. I believe that the existing homeowners agree, so it'd be just a question if the town agrees as well.
and I just remember from the last meeting, the only thing that I was curious about was to see if the fire department had any input on it, only because I know that's something in the past that's been discussed.
Yeah, I've gone through this.
So,
property.
and where I know that in the past, like, I remember them
Yeah.
saying, like, is that gonna be misleading or anything, and I don't know that it has caused any issues, I'm not saying that it has, I just know that it's something that was at one time discussed. So, and that was when I was probably relatively new to the board, so I mean, I don't even know, if that was ended up being a significant factor, I don't know if you
Well,
remember.
our bylaws stated on that too, signages on developments we weren't allowing for a while. Then we changed that and we made signages to a certain size. Does that meet the requirement of the town size? I know that got changed, bylaw changed from a
I
small
do
sign
remember
to a
that.
bigger sign.
Yep.
I don't know if you've been by the property at all and looked through where the sign is in no area of any kind of where a car would pull out and be visual out of the way. I understand about the fire department stating that it would go in, we're going into this particular development, they're looking for a road, they wouldn't know, but, that's something I agree, we should get something from the fire
Which,
department.
I know I did,
It was asked for a while back.
I know, because that was the one thing
Yeah.
that if someone were to call saying there's a fire
Yeah.
at, I'm just gonna say the Pines, for example, it's like, is that Pine Street?
For the
Is that-
ambulance.
And
It's
and
for-
which
yeah.
street within the Pines am I going to, kind of thing.
Yeah, it was more of a
And
public
it's
safety.
one of those things where it hasn't been an issue before, but I would not want us to be the reason why there was an issue.
Sure.
So.
You're not opposed to doing that, right? Going down and see the fire
So
department?
if there has been no correspondence yet, I would just, I'm not a board member on this, but I would just suggest that we put a condition on that to say that
Upon approval?
upon it, yeah,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, seeing as they've done, I don't see why they wouldn't, I'm not gonna speak on behalf of them, but
No, and it's not this, sign that stands right out like,
it,
it blends in with the.
it doesn't, yeah, and
Northern
I don't,
side.
I have zero problem
I think
with
it's a-
saying at all. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not opposed to it, but, and it's one of those things, it's not very, if it was the name of like, a street, then I would say that's, we gotta be careful on that
Right.
one, but, it's, that was the only thing that, and especially if the residents are for it, and it does, in my opinion, fit the character of the neighborhood, I think it actually
Sure.
looks very nice, so, again, I'm not a voting member, but I have no problem with
I agree, I
with
think
with
the
it
public,
saying, so,
public safety would have to be.
that's the only thing I was concerned with, the safety
Yeah,
aspect, so.
I agree with you.
Public input, or not yet?
Any more voting members have any questions?
No, I've seen the sign, and I think it's off the road, it doesn't have any visibility issues. It looks like it fits pretty well.
Yeah, I do too. Elise, have you seen it yet, the sign?
I haven't seen it yet. So when you say the approval of the public safety, is that,
So basically, like, let's say someone who does not live in the development saw smoke and called the fire department and said there's a fire at Stony Ridge. Well, the ambulance and the fire
be able to
department,
see
they're
the
not gonna
sign.
know who to go to, like, but there are street names within the development.
Correct.
okay.
So if it was on, let's just say there's a street within there called Smith Street, let's say,
Sure.
and that's where the house that was burning down, they're gonna say, oh, I don't know where to go. I mean, hopefully they would know that time around, but hypothetically, it's like, what street is Stony Ridge? So is that a street name? Am I going to, so God forbid that prolonged anything from being put out and that led to more damage. That's something that's come up before in the past where I don't know if it was the Pines development, but it might have been. Whereas like, is that Pine Street? Is there a street called Pines, the Pines within
Okay.
there? So that's the only thing that I was bringing up was that I want to make sure that the fire
agree
department
with
didn't
you.
see an issue with it, but. John, you got something?
My only question was, I thought in our discussion previously, and I'm going to defer at Diane, maybe you can help me on this, but I thought with regard to that sign, there was discussion about having the sign repainted or redone first in one of our previous meetings.
Unless you guys discussed it at
Do you
the
remember anything about that?
You discussed it at one of your meetings, but
No?
not at our meeting anyway, maybe,
Okay.
but not the last
I just
one.
don't, it all runs together, so,
Yeah, because the sign actually, it's got neutral colors, it kind of blends in with what you have.
Yeah.
I don't really, yeah,
okay,
I don't think it needs to be flashy.
okay.
Were you referring to being like repainted a different color or just touched up?
No, cleaned up, just cleaned up.
Okay, I mean, even still, I don't recall any discussion on that, if I don't look at a miss it, but I don't think that there was.
No, not part of this, it might have been part of our power washing discussion, but not part of anything getting us.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification.
So
Any-
I'm sorry, I do
Sure.
have one question. When you say, public safety, do you mean police and fire or just fire?
Well, the fire department would be the one to determine whether
Fire
they can do it,
department?
yeah.
I mean, hypothetically, yes, I mean, the
Yeah.
police, if they had need to go down there too, but the fire department is the one that makes that determination, so
Yeah.
that still isn't, yeah.
The
Okay,
lieutenants
so-
go out and they look at, when they do the fires in the homes, and, that tells them whether the police can get through, park, all that stuff, it's all through the fire department.
Okay.
Same thing on a development.
Okay,
Like
so
back
you
in-
wouldn't need anything from the police
Well,
department?
I mean, they're more than welcome to get something if they want, but ultimately, I think they're gonna say whatever the fire chief says.
Yeah, I mean, if
Yeah.
they want to, of course, we'll welcome it, but
Sure.
if I was a voting member, I would not be waiting on their response as well, you know what I
Right.
mean? I think the fire would be, would be.
We've always
enough at
used the
that
fire
point.
department in the past.
Right,
Okay.
right. Any more discussion on this, guys?
I'm going into last week's, I don't wanna do that.
Is there a motion on the floor for the modification request to condition 58 of the comprehensive permit regarding the entrance sign? sorry, the road sign at the entrance on Pine Street.
Do you want that with the condition
Sorry,
of the
with
approval?
with the condition, that it is approved by the, fire department.
And meets town bylaws, which we
Yes.
already determined
Yes,
that.
it does,
yeah,
yep.
so,
And town bylaws?
Yeah. You'll need Jim to go there and say,
I believe we sized that sign at the same time we did the
I
pond.
believe
I
that
think
was
so
all
too,
being
yeah.
done at the time we were changing stuff too. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
There-
Article 58
Is there a second?
with the conditions.
Yep.
So moved.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Alrighty, so that one is all set.
we did it.
And then, so, was there anything specific to discuss regarding the release of the bond, or were those two things just underneath that? Is there anything additional that you had?
I asked the board at the last meeting to provide an estimate of the current bond. I don't know if they were able to do that. Put together like what the current remaining cost to complete would be.
Peter Williams put something in there.
I
You
don't
see
Yeah.
know if Peter provided
that? Right there.
the balance of it, or?
Right, basically before, I think, we've got 100-something thousand in there.
Adjust inflation.
But the items that are remaining are pretty,
Right.
small.
So the
I see a total of
last one
50.
I had was the 106, right, and Peter did not provide.
I think that's what it is,
updated
it's
one that
it's either
I'm aware
104 and
of.
change or
Right.
106 and change.
Not that I'm aware
No.
of.
So I'll ask Peter.
So that's
So yeah,
what's
that would
being
be the
done.
formal request for the next meeting then, a cost to complete currently.
So right now you have approximately 106,000 being held on a bond. So this is the cost to do the completion of it in his valuations, if I'm not correct, if I'm correct,
15,000?
plus 3,000, them two, plus these down
Well,
here.
so this email that we're looking at right now is dated August 22nd.
Was the week before, the week I didn't come.
Right, and this is just, this is from Marguerite to P. Williams saying one additional question with regards to the drainage system maintenance and reserve costs. And this is, please see its attached HOA balance sheet. Based on an email from Attorney Augustino, is my understanding that the two reserve accounts showing a balance of $6,500 were funded as follows, and then gives the price of the drainage and the basins and everything. So,
We'll get that next week.
That was not for the cost to
That was not
complete
the
of
cost.
No, that
gateway.
was just a cost to replace the
That
individual
was
soils.
because we were trying to figure out, some of the necessary covenant language and funding requirements for the reserve accounts for the drainage systems. As far as I know, Peter Williams has not sent an updated cost to complete,
We have an existing cost to complete,
right, the one that's got around 106,000 in it.
so maybe we can just look at that as far as itemized items and.
Well, he usually takes that and updates what's been completed and what remains open.
Okay, all right, so we can ask him to do that. Would the board ask him, or should I?
I'm doing it right
Thank you,
now.
thank you very much.
Give him a call, let me know how you make it.
Is there anything that the board wanted the developer to present at the next meeting?
I wasn't here at the last meeting. I seen that, so we've got a few people from the HOA here. He has been reaching out and we're dealing with you guys, we're giving you all the paperwork that you were requiring and all that stuff from the last meeting that you were a little upset. He started dealing with the HOA people a lot easier, giving you more information. We got the picnic tables in, we got the electric shed repaired.
the meeting before last one.
Yeah,
think-
so I just want to make sure that everybody's working, well, we'll say it in the right
I
way,
think
playing
that-
nice in the sandbox, everybody's doing all right?
Yeah,
All right.
I think that we're in the right direction. I think that
Good.
Owen is doing as much as he can
Of course.
with the developer for his due diligence to get everything done. We know we have some tight timelines coming up in the
Yeah,
next,
what is our dates that
2
you need
weeks.
to have that in? So that's another problem we're gonna have.
which in?
We don't anymore.
We don't have that problem no more.
Well, the developer has that problem with the building inspector. He's going to need to get the building inspector sign off. But the building inspector sign off is only one of the sign offs that is needed for the release of the bond.
Okay,
So that was something that was discussed at the last meeting. We weren't sure if the planning board would be willing to move forward without the zoning board's approval, but we kept explaining that it wasn't, I mean, it's not necessary for a standard subdivision. And it sounds like the building inspector is fine moving forward.
Okay,
They have a meeting, I think in October, they put a placeholder on the warrant.
so should we get Peter Williams in our October meeting? Is that gonna be close enough, or should we have something earlier?
I think there's a few things that we're trying to take care of with legal language around deeds that I've been working with Owen on. There's still some work that's needed around some of the forms for the reserve accounts, operation and maintenance accounts. So there's some documents that still need to be done, taken care of. And then there was an issue of, some sort of conversation that probably needs to happen with regards to, the work that wasn't done around the inspection reports.
I don't know if you
The
remember that.
annual inspection
Can you do that?
reports of the drainage system.
There was some inspection.
Oh,
reports.
yes, I do
And
remember
basically,
all
there
that,
were
yes.
multiple ways of trying
Of
to appease that, and I
yes.
think it wasn't anything that was voted on or anything, but we were basically discussing some kind of monetary input into the 40B fund, right?
I mean, it's, however the town wants to handle it, it could be either another amenity that they choose to put into the development, or in exchange, you could come up with a donation that you would use for affordable housing purposes.
Has a dollar value been placed on that yet?
That's one thing that when we left the last meeting, I was talking to Marguerite about it and Carrie. I wasn't sure if we were going to discuss that tonight or if they were gonna come forth with something. So I said, if they don't have anything prepared, that's something we can, of course,
Can I-
discuss. I'm not looking to,
Can I just ask for a clarification for
Sure.
my own edification?
Yep.
Based on what you were referring to for the inspection reports?
Yep.
And where the dollar value may or may not be or go, because I think that's important for all of us. You mentioned, I think, last time in your explanation, your wording referred to should have been inspected on a monthly basis, I believe.
No,
And-
twice a year, wasn't it?
Twice a,
I think you said while it was being developed or
Once a
something.
year.
Monthly only during the time of construction, and then it
So-
became semi-annually.
Right, so because that construction, when you say construction, is that construction of the development or construction of?
Road,
What?
that would be silk fencing going in all the manhole
I think
covers
it
while
was-
they're doing the work and
I
stuff.
believe it was the construction of the infrastructure.
I'm asking because those number of months,
Right, so
Is
that's
it-
what, I think that the plan was that the developer was going to make a proposal to the town. I don't know that you've put that together yet.
No, I haven't yet.
Okay, so I think we still need, that's still an open item at
Okay.
this
Okay.
stage. And maybe if we can also have that from you. at the
Yeah.
next
If,
meeting.
and if you feel like there's another, like she was saying, amenity you feel like you want to contribute, I mean, I'm not looking to tally up every single dollar sign, with this, but I mean, we should stick to what our standards were, but, I'm not looking to.
yeah, and that's why I was just asking to
nickel-dime it, so.
get a sense on that, so that that's something the trustees could then discuss.
Right, it's hard, until I see a proposal, it's hard for me to even get feedback solicited for the board, but I would probably, depending on how the proposal is presented, there may be people I might reach out to who consult with the board to ask them for their opinion.
Okay.
I thought that, at the last meeting, we identified that there was something that was not complied with, and that we talked about different ways that the town could address that, which seemed to be most appropriately done through an equitable process. It made sense to at least allow the developer in the first instance to make a proposal.
Yeah, I'm more than fine with
And
that.
from there, if there's something particular that any of you want, you could talk about that certainly, but I would say,
I think we'd have to hear the developers
I think it makes sense to hear. a
also first and
proposal
know
see-
know what the values are too. That's,
Yeah.
both of those things have to come first.
And just to be clear, the reason we're asking for the updated cost of complete is because we'll ask for a partial release of bond at the next hearing, or whenever we get the.
But you're gonna get this report that they're requesting to at least get that rolling so we can,
Report?
yeah, developer was gonna be working on that thing for the, that he was just talking about for the next meeting.
Proposal.
The
Oh, proposal, yeah,
yeah.
so it's, so
Not necessarily,
Right, but just have
the-
stuff
the
together
report- the
for it.
reports were missed, we can't go back
Yeah,
and do
right,
them.
right.
It's so, we're not looking for them to do the report, it's basically, I mean, it's something that wasn't complied with on the permit that is
done.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, and there are
Gotcha.
various ways to do it, so we figured,
Yeah.
you know, whether they say X amount of dollars will contribute, you know, if it turns out there was $1,000 worth of, I'm just spitballing over here, $1,000, and they say, we'll put in some extra benches and it equals $800, I'm not gonna say, well, you owe us $200 more somewhere. You know, that's how I was looking at it, I wasn't looking to, but, you know, it's by right, it is something that should be met, but,
Yeah.
you know, I'm not looking for, can you give me the dollar sign of every single report and how much money do we, you know,
Did
exactly?
you pay for that elastic?
No, but I think.
Didn't wanna have
the reason,
That's it, no.
I think the reason I was asking Marguerite the question was because in your comments last time, you indicated, you know, that it should be for the months, quote unquote, I think it was, while the construction is going on, but I don't know what that construction is defined as. Is it the roads, is it development, is it the two ponds? You know, what is the construction period defined as? And then you mentioned that you
Talk
thought.
about it being the infrastructure.
I believe so too.
Right, and then you mentioned that you thought the cost could be potentially a couple of $100s would have been a couple of $100s per month. So that means, are we looking at 6 months or 2 years? Because all of that, to some extent, determines that value.
I think personally, at this point, I would just want to see what they have for a proposal, we can
Yep.
go from there. I mean, that's kind of what I meant by not nickeling and diming it.
Yeah, no, I don't want, I know, I
you
just
know,
want to
it's-
have an idea. I mean, this is,
I don't know the answer to that
Okay.
because I was not the
Yeah.
one constructing the development, so
Yep.
I need to hear that from people.
Yeah.
I need to hear a proposal, and then I need to
Yep.
run that by various people.
Yep.
and I don't think we want to do that either. We're almost there.
Right.
We're all almost there, and we've all worked really hard on this in the last 6 weeks. Not suggesting that there's a bump in the road here. I just want to have
No, not at all.
something that we're working
Some
with.
of the things, the last meeting too, I had mentioned, and technically the project came in as losing money, as a negative 2% profit, which means technically, through the whole process, we could have been doing hardships, and that's not our goal.
Right.
We came in here saying, oh, we're a completely good project, and so the same spirit of that, my goal here is to just kind of come to a nice, move forward.
Yeah, and that's how I was treated. I wasn't, you know, if things were progressing differently, and then that might be a different discussion, but, you know, there's no reason, in my opinion, there was no reason to, like, cut too deep, so to speak, you know
Nope,
what I mean?
I agree.
Unless, how do you guys feel? I mean, I know you're kind of relatively new to that part of the process of it,
I've been
but,
following it, and it just, I mean, it seems like Mr. Kelly's doing everything that he should be doing.
it is, but it's more, but when there are things in the comprehensive permit in place that aren't, you know, we have to find a way to hold them accountable for it, because if that was the case, then, oh, cool, I can do what I want and just, and I'm not, and then they're not doing that, I'm not saying that they are. But like, if we continue to address, you know, we're setting precedents where it's kind of like, oh, well, I know when Stony Ridge did stuff, you know, they didn't have to do the reports and they get away with it, so we can too, right? That's what we don't want to set that kind of example or that precedent, so that's basically why I don't want to turn a blind eye to it, but I'm also not looking to cripple anybody in the process, you know?
What I will say is that my recommendation would be that the board at least have a proposal in front of it that they're comfortable with. They don't have to necessarily approve it, before they talk about any further release of the bond, which was why I was suggesting that proposal come in for the next meeting. At the same time that you're looking at the cost to complete, updated cost to complete estimate.
Yeah, those are concurrent.
May still have a few more discussions, there may still need to be, but you have to have something that you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable with it, then you may need to wait for the release of bond. Certainly, you're right at this stage.
Okay, so there's nothing really to vote on, do we need to vote to continue this, or?
Yes.
So,
We're gonna continue it though, he's gonna bring a proposal, Peter Williams is gonna be notified, we're gonna have some information for the next meeting. That's where we're at.
cool.
So I don't know, is the October date, does that make sense for you, or do we want to make it longer?
Well,
Just,
is that gonna interfere with the annual town meeting part?
No, that's all separate.
Okay, then whatever it takes.
We got it through the ZBA as far as we need to.
Okay.
Now it's
and at
to
this,
the building inspector.
at the start of the meeting, he said that date worked for him, so I don't see why we
let's do
can't,
it.
why we can't try to wrap this up.
Let's continue it.
Alright, so,
Hearing is October 5th.
Oh, fifth, okay. if you can get that proposal to me more than the night before, that would be helpful.
I can do that.
2 days before.
2 nights before. She said more than one night before, so I get 2 nights before,
I
that
heard it.
qualifies.
Well, I may be reaching out to some other people, that's why. Thank you.
Okay, so is there a motion on the floor to continue, the discussion regarding the release of the bonds to our October 26th meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty. All set? Fantastic, absolutely.
Actually, this is the release of the bond. Were you a voting member on that, Dave?
No.
I don't think you are. I think you
That
are,
was
Elise.
Susan.
Elise
I think so.
and who else was the other?
So that's gonna be the same voting member for that?
Other one. There's 3.
You know, right here.
Zach.
Zach,
So,
Susan,
yeah,
and
so
Elise.
Zach and Elise need to make that motion.
Okay, I wasn't sure if even that it was continuing to, so, stepping down as chair for the purpose of making the motion, I'll make the motion that we continue this to the October 26th meeting, this meeting, the discussion of the release of the bond. So then, Elise, you would have to second that.
Second that?
And then you call for the vote.
And then you can call for the vote.
Okay, any discussion?
No?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, now we are good.
Thank you, sorry.
Thank you.
No, no,
No, it's done right.
public input? Anyone?
Yes, I have some public input.
Sure.
When we do the passing, I thought that if I wasn't a voting member, that I had to refrain from saying aye, so moved. But that's not the case, because you guys all look at me like you're supposed to be saying something. Am I right or
Or
am I wrong?
if you're a voting member on that case, then yes, you
Yes.
would.
But I wasn't a voting member here. So-
You were on
Do I
the.
have input, not being a voting member?
Oh, so yeah, oh yeah, absolutely.
Just wanna-
But,
Not to make a motion regarding it,
Right.
but input in terms of discussion? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, typically, in following Robert's rule of order, it would go, the applicant would go, then I would ask the voting members for their questions first, only, and I hate to say this, their questions are, I want to say, more important, but more relevant as they're voting members, so hypothetically, if there's a lot to discuss, the voting members need to make sure that they get their questions in because they're the ones voting on the case. So if the voting members have nothing, then I would turn it over to, but where we was only 5, I'm not looking to say, you can't speak, I gotta hear from John first, like, that's why I kind of look in that, just
No,
keep
I'm just
kind of going
trying
down
to-
the road, but, no, you,
I might be a little wet behind the ears, but I'll
you,
learn quick.
so that's why when we were discussing.
That's why I was refraining, it's like, oh, do I
No,
say anything?
of course not.
Do
I mean, of
should
course
I
you
say
can.
anything?
That's why, for the modification request for the permit, especially regarding the sign, that's why I made sure I prefaced that I'm not a voting member on this. So like, my input doesn't matter in the sense that, like, if I was against it, well, I'm not a voting member on it. For it, I'm not a voting member on it, but I was just giving my input on it to, if someone wanted to take that under their consideration, or it's something that they didn't think about. But, so that's why it's, John mentioned before, I'm not a voting member on this, but this is how I feel about it, because of course you have input on it.
Okay.
Input in the sense that your questions are valid for discussion, but no voting input
voting.
on it. Right,
Understandable.
right.
Thank you.
Yep. Elise, you got anything?
No.
Awfully quiet today. John, you too, you're awfully quiet today too.
Oh, it's okay.
Greg, how are you?
Good, so far.
Any correspondence that came in, Carrie? Nothing? You said nothing for the next meeting so far?
Nothing.
All right, so we have before us to approve the meeting minutes from August 24th. That seems so long ago. So is there a motion on the floor? Did anyone have a chance to review the meeting minutes for that meeting?
I
Greg,
have,
you did also?
I sent them to me online, plus I got a copy of them also.
I was hoping you were going to read them all to us tonight.
Yeah, you want me to read them all?
Yeah, please do. So is there a motion on the floor to approve the meeting minutes from October 24th?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the meeting minutes as written, no changes from August 24th, 2022.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
So something like that where it's like there's no voting member on that, anyone can make the motion, anyone can, same thing for like, let's say you felt like the discussion was going on too long, you say I make a motion that we continue this to the next meeting, so, you know, so like, there are certain things that you can make motions to and second, not being a vote, especially things that aren't related to
I
cases.
guess what I'm trying to say is, if I'm not a voting member, I can still speak my mind.
Absolutely you can,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, I hope that you do, yeah.
Because when I originally thought, well, I'm not a voting member, I'm just.
Yeah, it's not like, damn, I missed it. No, you're still involved.
But you're a member of the board, that's,
Absolutely.
it's not like if you're not a voting member, you're not here.
Your
Like,
input
that's
could
the-
change one of the voting members' decisions, so that's why we want to hear from
Like,
everybody.
what if you had experience with it and you were like for me, for the whole fire, I was never a voting member on that
Yeah,
case.
because we don't
But
have
I
that.
knew that in the past, that was something the fire department looked for. So hypothetically, if I didn't mention it, it's possible, I'm not accusing someone of not, no one else might have mentioned that. And now it's like, oh, that's a good point, we should look into that.
Yeah.
So even though I wasn't a voting member on it, it was something that, it's input that I had, so you might have input from something on the next case where it's kinda like, I'm not a voting member on this case, but I know of my, you know, I know down the street we had this happen, you know, was that something that could affect this? So, that's one of the benefits of being a board, is that it's not hate to say this, but there's no I. I mean, for voting, yes, we have to have 3 voting members, and it has to stay with 3 voting members, obviously. But the last thing we want to do is have people feel like it's like, well, my opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in terms of the result of the input of the vote. I mean, the result of the vote, it doesn't matter. But in terms of the discussion, I would hope that you would speak what you have to say.
Oh, believe me.
No,
As I go
I
along,
might take that back
you'll
now.
You'll hear my voice more and more.
I mean, honestly, but if you have nothing, then you have nothing.
Yeah.
You know, don't feel like you have to think of something to say either. If
Yeah.
you don't have anything to say, then there's nothing wrong with saying nothing if you have nothing to say, you know?
Gotcha.
Before you close the meeting, I realized, we didn't actually officially take a vote on each of the modification requests to find that they were minor modifications. I'm assuming that's how the board was considering them, but I think that we probably need to return to each of the modification requests and have that for discussion. It's still within the meeting, so it's allowed to happen.
I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
Apologize.
No, it's not
But you're still within the night of the meeting, so you
Still
just
in the
simply
meeting. We haven't
return
adjourned.
to that portion of the meeting and you just, make a motion to reopen modifications.
Can we do both conditions at the same time, or should we do condition
I would do
16?
them separately only because you voted on them.
It's 2 separate votes, yeah.
Right.
Even, it's the same voting members,
Same
but.
voting
Yeah.
members.
Who was the voting members again? Wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Dave, Greg, and,
It was me.
Elise.
Yeah, and Elise, okay.
so, you just would need to make a motion to reopen, the discussion
So,
on modification request to condition 16 of the comprehensive permit.
I make a motion that we reopen the discussion for the modification request to start off with this condition 16 for the comprehensive permit.
To be a minor.
Well,
Not yet.
I'm making a motion to I'm making a motion to
Oh, make it
reopen,
open
to reopen the discussion
I'll
first.
second that, Mr. Chairman.
And then one of the 3 voting members, you have to have a conversation about whether or not you found this condition request, modification request to be a minor modification or not, and if you need some explanation as to what that means, I can provide you with
Sure.
some.
I'm sorry, who made the motion?
I made the motion, Greg seconded.
Second.
He can make the motion even though.
He's not a voting member.
But just,
But he was just reopening it as part of
Okay.
just to reopen the discussion.
I'm sorry.
So, do you want me to provide you with some insight as to what we're talking about?
Yeah, I just wanna know whether it's a minor or.
Yeah, so the, under 40B, modification requests can be made, and the first step with a modification request is for the board to determine whether or not it's considered a minor modification or a major modification. There are certain provisions in the statute as to what would immediately constitute a major modification if you're trying to reduce or increase the number of affordable units, for instance, if you're changing infrastructure to the property, those would be considered larger modifications. And in those cases, if you find, oftentimes, there's an agreement that would be considered a major modification, like what's happening with Stonegate Landing. That one, they didn't even bother to get to this part of the vote, they just agreed it was a major modification, and now it goes forward through a public hearing process. If it's a minor modification under the 40B regulations, the board, if they determine that it's a minor modification, that's it, that's the vote that's taken. Under the zoning boards, the Town of Dayton Zoning Board rules and regulations for comprehensive permits, however, you have the authority under your own local rules to also impose conditions on those modification requests. So generally, if we had followed the proper course of action tonight, we would have first taken a vote to find this to be a minor modification and then voted to approve it with a condition. But we were kind of moving forward, and that step, I didn't want to miss that step. So if for some reason you don't believe that this is considered a minor modification, that you think this requires an opening of a public hearing and public input into it, then you can do that, and that we'll need to do a reconsideration of the votes that were taken. And I have no problem walking you through that process.
I mean,
If you feel that it was a minor modification, you were able to still get the input that you needed, even though it wasn't a public hearing, you had public input into that, which is certainly allowed. It's not a public hearing process, but it's public input, so it wasn't advertised. But you got the input of the people that you needed, and you established conditions that you wanted. Then I just wanna have it clear in the record that you found it to be a minor modification.
so essentially, if we didn't get that public input, let's, for the sake of this conversation, assume John was not here. So we had no one from the HOA even knew about this. They might say, wait a second, do we want input on, we would like to voice our input on that. Then that would be something that we would then have to advertise. But thankfully, because, John's a member of the HOA, they were aware that this meeting was happening, they were able to come. It wasn't a executive session where it's closed off to the public and not being, it's not being recorded, or it's not being anything like that. It's
It's
something
still a
that,
public meeting. It's just
Yeah,
not a public
right,
hearing where you
right.
advertise and you send out notices of the modification request.
which would go to all the abutters and everyone within the development, right?
Right.
So you need each voting member to say what they think
Well,
of.
so you should have a discussion on each of the modification requests as to whether or not you considered that to be a major modification, which would require advertising and notice in a full public hearing.
Okay. I think that this is a minor modification due to the footprint of the fences in the same location. Elevation of it is only within 1 foot, and the homeowners association is in terms with the agreement. That's my judge. That's how I see it. I don't know if anybody else sees it.
I think, my opinion would be that this is definitely a minor.
Right.
They asked
I would
for
have
it.
I wouldn't want to have a public hearing
Well,
for
that's your
something
decision.
that minor.
I think it's minor, that's my
Yeah.
opinion. If it wasn't for all the agreements and everybody understanding, and
Yeah.
if they were trying to make the detent pond smaller and do things like this, and bring the fence in and not do it, and they're gonna fix what's wrong with the fence now, and the homeowners association's agreeing with it, I feel this is a minor modification on condition 16. Now, do we gotta open this to anybody in public, or?
So I will,
It's not, this is a discussion for the board. This is
Okay,
not something the
okay.
public gives input into.
can I comment or I cannot?
You are not, you've recused yourself from this.
Okay,
Okay,
So I would say no, because you're
Okay.
acting as a member of the public.
okay.
that's what I went.
Didn't the homeowners association request this modification?
I don't
No,
remember
both
how
the
this,
requests came
They-
from the developer.
Okay. But they were here at the last meeting when it was requested, and they commented on it then. I think it's
Yes,
minor-
in
minor.
that
It's
sense
like
they had input,
everybody
but it wasn't-
involved is already well aware of it.
So Marguerite, once there's a motion made, can you have public comment then or no?
No,
No.
this
Okay.
is simply under the provisions of 40B, this is a decision for the board to make
Okay.
as to whether it's a major or minor modification only.
No problem.
You've already provided public comment on the modification request.
Okay.
So now we gotta make a motion?
now
So
that it's
if you
been,
find that it's a minor modification, you need to make a motion to find that the modification request is a minor modification.
And for the reason of each member,
You don't even need to have a reason, it's just a finding.
so does Zach gotta make the motion, or is it?
It has to be one of the
Has to be
three
one
voting
member.
members.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion on the request to the condition of 16 is a minor modification to the comprehensive permit.
is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, good job.
All right,
All right, everyone
let's do
said
the
aye.
next
so-
one.
So first, now
58.
I have to make the motion that we reopen the discussion regarding the modification request to condition 58 of the comprehensive permit. So again, I'm just opening the discussion for you guys, for the voting members to discuss if they feel that this is the same process. Is this condition a minor or major, modification? And this is the one, again, to remind everyone.
Second on that motion?
Oh, sorry, yeah, is there a second, sorry?
Second.
And then, so now we get to, so this is the
Good
one.
call for the vote.
Oh, sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now we need to discuss that aspect, if you guys feel like that this one, so the same elements are being discussed, but now we're talking about the sign. Do you-
so I got, that would make, when we do these minor conditions, it's the conditions that we put on that for the fire department to review the signage,
It's
stuff
not-
like
it's not-
that's still there, that has nothing to do with it.
Right,
All right,
it's,
just
the
making
the
sure
conditions
I'm
aren't
saying-
changing, it's just
I
that
didn't know
is-
if I had to put that verbiage
No,
on
so
there.
I mean, because of the local rules that you hold for comprehensive permits, one of your local rules does allow you to impose conditions on modifications, even if they're found to be a minor modification.
Okay, so we've already done that in those,
That-
Already did
okay,
that.
so
Yes.
that's what I was getting at. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion.
Well, I
Okay,
mean,
go ahead.
do you guys wanna discuss it at all? You guys feel like this is also?
I have to say that I think that that's also a minor.
I agree,
I agree.
Good, all yours.
Talking about a sign.
it's okay. So, let's see. where
Sign's
was
already
it?
there.
What's that, Article 58?
Condition 58.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we, modification to comprehensive permit for condition 58 is a minor modification. on the
Second that motion.
comprehensive permit.
Is there a second?
I just second it.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's okay.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we got that.
Now you can.
All right, so, meeting minutes are all set, we got that voted on. Is there any last words? Any last word, that sounds pretty.
We're all going outside to be hung.
Is there a motion on the floor to adjourn so Laura can go home?
Sorry, one
Whoa,
last
whoa,
thing.
whoa.
Do you
So moved.
need them to vote,
Sorry, wait, no.
to sign without waiting for the next meeting? To sign through PDF if they approve?
I'm trying, Laura, I'm trying. I know. Literally, I was seconds away.
How you practice and don't do it,
No.
okay.
So we don't have to do that?
We're good.
Okay, we're good.
Okay.
So, you said so moved, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alrighty.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone can say except.